Podstein.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Alex, I got Steve, I got Jamal. I'm back. They actually started recording the show, and I popped in about a minute in, so we're restarting.
It's like,
we'll
what happened? I thought Alex wasn't here. Alex is here. It's a miracle.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm back from my little trip. Here's a pro tip to you guys and to our listeners. If you've never been on a cruise before,
eat all the ice cream.
No. My tip is go on a cheap cruise first, not a very, very expensive cruise. Because if you find out that one of you and your spouse are seasick easily, you don't want to be spending thousands of dollars on that. Because that's what happened to me.
Were you the one that
you spent most of the time in the room?
Oh, not me. My wife.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
But
Because
when one person in a couple has no fun, nobody has fun. We all know that.
What I do know about that stuff is that it doesn't get better until you get off the boat.
It does not. It does not. Like when we would get to the islands and you go on the island, fine. But every night on the boat, no, not fun.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she was
I got
miserable.
seasick on a violent, like very choppy fishing trip once, and it was like the most miserable thing ever because it didn't go away until we got off the boat.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So the weird part is she's been on other boat trips, like day boat trips, cruises, things like that, booze cruise type things, and fine. But this was overnight, and I guess it's the night that messed with her.
Well, for me, it was out on the Gulf of Mexico on a sort of bad day, and it was like going, oh, yeah. So that never happened to me before, but I don't want it to ever happen again.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have any experiences, and I would rather stay away from it. It's kind of crazy though, because I thought about it, and I was like, it's crazy. One of our last nights on the cruise, when I was like 16, it was really a really bad storm, like to the point where it idiotically, all right, I don't even know if that's the right word. One of the people that I met there, like that group of I wouldn't call them friends, but the crew that I was hanging out with, opened the door to go outside on the deck in the middle of a storm at night, so you couldn't even see the waves hitting the deck, and they opened the door, and all you just saw was like these waves just boom hitting the top, whatever floor we were on, just hitting the deck.
And you were on one of those big ships? That'd be terrifying, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was Royal Caribbean.
Okay. Yeah.
Royal Caribbean.
That almost sounds like the movie Titanic.
Yes. Or what's the Titanic ripoff that Kurt Russell was in? I can't remember.
There was a George Clooney movie where he died in a boat too. It sounds like that one too. That was
that one was The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, that one.
Very, very, very good uplifting movie there.
I like The Perfect Storm. I really like that one.
It's a great movie, but everyone dies.
Yeah. It's a true story. I read the book.
Yeah, everybody dies.
It's a true story? I didn't even know that.
It's a true story. Yeah, it's a true story.
It's a true story. It's a made-up story about a true thing that happened because everyone dies. So.
Well, yeah, I mean the dialogue on the boat there, but the book all that what happened to the boat is true, and it's in a book. And it's very, very detailed, very scientific, and all of that.
Right.
All right, can you give me like a 15-second synopsis of like what the true story was then? Since I already know what happened in the movie. What's the true story?
Boat goes out. Boat gets caught in hurricane. Boat refuses to turn around. Boat sinks.
Yes.
Oh, so it wasn't like no huge wave or nothing that kind of did them in?
No.
Nobody really knows the specifics because they disappeared into a giant storm.
Right.
Okay.
I think the whole thing about the multiple storms kind of converging on where they were too was what actually happened. It was like when this happens, you have 0% chance of survival. So
welcome to the literary hour, kids.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hey, it's better than talking about the football team. In fact,
I'm pretty sure there's 4 minutes they were entertained. By the way,
there you go.
People were entertained.
Go back to the Green Bay game. My trip was a lot like that game where everything was going fine until we got into the red zone, aka going back out to the ocean, and then
you fumbled the ball right on the goal line.
Exactly. If that's vomiting. All right. Well, why don't we talk about the team? We're not going to talk about Dan Snyder because, hey, guys, I'll do a pitch here. If you want to hear all about the whole Dan Snyder saga, the ownership saga thing, listen to Steve's other show. It's Just Business, because they spent a full hour talking about that, going into some good detail about the history and, pontificating about it.
You won't learn more anywhere else but with us.
No, unless you know somebody like who's got inside sources.
In which case, you need to call us.
Yes, tell us. We're gonna talk. Let's talk trade deadline. I know that was a topic you guys wanted to bring up. So the trade deadline is after this week. So it's coming right up. There's been all this talk about, Washington going for Tua or DeSean Watson going places, including some people think he's coming here, which I don't see happening in a million years. But do you guys want to start with that kind of hearsay?
Well, sure. I mean, my general thoughts on the trade, the reason I want to bring it up is I wanted to say this. Washington would have to be crazy to want to bring people in right now. Okay, they're 2-5. They're going nowhere. They're in a division which, the Dallas Cowboys are the clear favorite. Mm-hmm. Trading for DeSean Watson is insanity, right now. If you want to bring more chaos into Washington, let's bring DeSean Watson in. So, I mean, if anything, I would trade assets to get some more draft picks. To me, it's all about the draft picks with this team. I mean, there's no player they're going to bring in here that's going to make a difference this year. And I can't think of a quarterback who I would really want in here for the going forward. Not Deshaun Watson, not now. And Tua, I'm not that high on. So for me, if anything, trade some players away and get some draft picks at most. That's my thought on trade deadline.
So for me, I'm actually in the same boat in terms of like if there's a split, like I'm saying 60% or 65% be sellers. I think this is a team where I will look on the defensive side in terms of who I'm going to sell because while the coaches may look at this as a down year and that they'll bounce back next year or something like that, the fact of the matter is conversations existed in the offseason about trying to trade away some of your pieces on the defensive line and trying to get some assets in terms of draft picks and stuff like that for them. So I think that conversation needs to resurface, and I think it needs to be something that should be taken seriously, understanding that this defense has regressed. Like this isn't the offseason anymore. It's no perception that this is a top 5 unit or a top 10 unit. Like we're 31st. 31st. Like get some pieces from that defensive line and try to recoup some assets for that player. Whether it's a Matt Ioannidis, a Daron Payne, or a Tim Settle. Jonathan Allen is playing like a Pro Bowler. So I wouldn't even they made the right decision clearly, and he's standing out like by far. And that's kind of where I'm at on the defensive side in terms of being sellers. Offensively, you could look at the offensive line, whether it's Brandon Scherf, excuse me. I was thinking of Eric Flowers, but I was more so thinking about Wes Schweikert if you're not going to trade Sheriff, or even the backup tackle, but. Be selective. Obviously, I'm not saying trade away everybody. I'm just saying if you want to trade somebody, like look at that, the offensive line or the defensive line. I am interested in Watson though. I think that's the only person that I'll be interested in. As far as we know, everybody on Wednesday at 9:00. The only person that Watson is, or the only team that Watson is willing to lift his no trade clause for as of right now is the Miami Dolphins. There's nothing to say where he can't change his mind or that Washington can't do something that entices him to come here. But in terms of like the player itself, I think Watson isn't a 2021 play, but he's a 2022 through 2025 play at the very least, to see where you go from there. So I am in for a trade on Watson, but in terms of any other quarterbacks for a trade deadline, nah, that's it.
Watson's too high a risk. You can't trade for him. Period. The end.
Oh.
What they want for him is insane. Any trade that doesn't have the caveat of if he goes to jail, you get nothing, and in fact, you give us something back, would be a foolish trade by any football team. The dude's name is mud at this point. You can't make a move. It's just that simple.
What'd you say, Jamal? I didn't hear you.
I'm saying it's all civil charges. It's nothing criminal.
Well, first of all, he is being. Don't forget this is happening in Harris County, okay, where I am. So he is being investigated by the police for criminal conduct that is alleged in the petitions. The petitions allege criminal sexual assault, multiple counts. And so he's being investigated. I would suspect the problem that they have is that This is largely a he said, she said thing, unless there is a blue dress somewhere, and that's probably not the case. So I think they're probably having trouble coming up with evidence, but he is being investigated for criminal sexual assault. Um, and the other thing is, I mean, talk about a
But
bad look. What's that?
I was going to let you finish. I was about to say, so let's just be clear in terms of like setting the record straight now. So as of now, he is being investigated, but he has only been accused of or being sent to court or whatever the term is for civil charges or civil accusations right now. Like he's in civil court.
Yes, yes, all the lawsuits are civil lawsuits. The conduct alleged in the lawsuits is criminal conduct. So he's being investigated. But here's the thing, and I agree with Alex. I think it's crazy to trade away a guy in this situation. But more than that, didn't we just get through? Aren't we in the middle of Washington being a horrible place because of their treatment of women and all that? And you're going to bring in a dude who's being sued by 22 of them? I mean, that's not. I just think it's a horrible look for this franchise in particular. Even if you could get him, and the idea that Watson would waive his no trade clause to come to this franchise is not realistic, I don't think. But beyond that, I just think it's a terrible look for this franchise in particular.
Well, that's true. It's a terrible look, but it's not getting better, and it's not going to get worse. Like everything, there's a perception already. While you're talking about building up an image, guess what? The image already sunk again. Whatever Jason Wright and all those other, I'm not even gonna put words in. I'm not even gonna put a name to it, but whatever the organization has been doing to try and build up the image, it's been torn down again over the last couple of weeks. So there is already a midst in which you have a window to trade for Watson. But secondly, my thing is, while I'm wanting to trade for Watson, think about it like this: if you sit here and pass on a guy like DeSean Watson, guess who else is going to take the hit for trading for him? It's still going to be the same. It's going to be the same noise for any other organization that trades for him, is that you guys traded for a person who allegedly did XYZ with 20 plus women. And guess what? Eventually that noise will go away. It'll go away. And I'm not like discrediting or being what's the word?
Misogynistic.
No.
That is a word. That is a very accurate word.
Disingenuous, I guess, or maybe something like that. I don't want to sound like that. I'm just being real. Like we all know, like the news comes and goes. And I'm saying, like, if you want your franchise guy, like if you think that he's your franchise guy, then you make the move and go for him. And he's not too expensive if you believe that he's that talented quarterback. He's a top 5
10 years ago, you may be right, but we're in a different world. From a political PR standpoint, news doesn't go away anymore like this. That stuff.
We'll see what happens when he goes to the Dolphins, because I know he's not coming to Washington. I'm just saying.
No, he's not coming to
Washington. I don't think he's going to the Dolphins.
I would say my whole thing is, and I'm just saying, Washington needs to be aggressive, and they need to understand the urgency and understand that, like, if they're leaving stones unturned, then they're failing. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, understand, you need to do your homework on a guy like DeSean Watson, understand the situation, do your research, your own personal research. They have the resources to kind of do, whatever it is they need to do, and then move from there. So I'm saying don't leave any stone unturned, but at the end of the day, odds are, like, there's a small percent chance he comes here. But I'm telling you, when he's done with Houston and goes to whatever next team, it's going to be the same thing. They'll complain, but eventually the noise will go away.
I'll put it out. I would be surprised if he goes to a team and he's not suspended by the commissioner at that point.
The commissioner should have put him on the exempt list.
He should have initially. Yeah,
say they only do things for like that for criminal. Like they verbally said it already. I don't have the quote,
Jamal,
but they only put people on the exempt list if there's criminal things like that involved, and he's not involved with anything criminal. So they're not going to put him on the exempt list. They're not going to suspend him. Not right now.
Well, number one, the conduct alleged is criminal conduct.
But
well, it is. I mean, and the CBA doesn't require a criminal charge to be suspended, or to be put on the commissioner's exempt list. But really, if you think about it, I did put some time in to try to come up with this. I can't think of another active player who's been accused of this many different civil claims like this. I really don't. I mean, this is almost a unique situation in the
There's
history of
not
the
many
NFL.
people who are accused about this much. There's
Yeah,
like Bill
people. Period.
Cosby.
Well, that was
There's
100. That was a criminal charge. I mean, criminal.
eventually, but
Yeah.
that took probably 10 years. I mean, look, I knew about the Cosby thing because I went to Temple. There were rumors
Yeah,
about
I
that
mean
stuff.
that, and you
Yeah.
could go to like Gary Glitter was another. If you remember him, he was another
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's a
There are
handful.
other high profile people who have had this kind of thing happen, but yeah,
But
not
the
an
basics.
NFL player.
Here's the thing, though. The NFL basically put the suspension on the Texans. This is what I didn't agree with, because the Texans can't play him. They're not going to trot him out there and
Yeah, yeah.
and here's your face of your franchise. So the NFL basically said, here, you got to carry him on your roster. That prevented the Texans from carrying a 53rd player. Yeah,
Right.
So that's Jamal and I just see it differently, and that's fine. And we all got our opinions out. So bottom
Yeah.
line for me, this all started the trade deadline. To me,
Yes.
let's be sellers. Sell Brandon Scherf if you can. Sell whoever. Sell everybody, and get some draft picks. That's my view.
You want to? I'll give you a wild card name who I would even look to shop, and I don't love it, but in terms of what you've spent and what you've put into the guy and what you could get for him, Cam Curl. You got him. You draft him for a 7th round pick. You could probably get a 2nd or a 3rd rounder for him. That is a buy low, sell high option, and if you're in a rebuild mode, you got to take advantage.
Yeah, but
of some
he's
of
a
those.
young guy. He's the guy you'd want to build with.
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking about
understand
trading the
that,
old
but
guys.
that's also where his value is.
Trade the old guys though. Trade Scherf. Some of these guys that have been around a while. I mean, the young guys like Terry McLaurin, Cam Curl. I wouldn't trade them. Tr-
I
wouldn't.
would. That is where I'm in the leave no stone unturned. Like if
Okay.
someone comes along and says, "Hey, I'll give you a 1st or 2nd rounder or multiple picks for Cam Curl," I gotta listen to that.
Well, nobody's going to give us a 1st round draft pick for Cam Curl.
I mean, when people did their remocking of the NFL draft from last year, they moved him to a 1st round pick. So I'm just saying, and I know that's fans. That's them doing their thing.
Right.
So, I honestly think they should be sellers for sure. Obviously, everyone's gonna say we should get rid of D-line, right? Like we're 4
Well,
deep
I
on
don't
the
know. I
defensive
mean,
line.
yeah, I guess Matt Ioannidis or Tim Settle or the
Yeah.
three what Jamal mentions, right? Daron Payne, Tim Settle, Matt Ioannidis. Trade one of them.
Yeah, you kind of have
can't
to.
trade the ends. You don't want to trade either one of them.
Right.
And Jonathan Allen has proven way too valuable. So yeah, one of those 3 guys.
Yeah, one of them. The problem is you don't have a whole lot of assets outside of that in the offensive line, like you guys were mentioning, guards. And guards don't have value in terms of trade value, I don't think.
Nobody's trading a 1st round pick for a guard. Not
No.
a guard that's like Scherf, whose contract expires in 8 weeks, 9 weeks.
Right. No one's trading for that. I don't know. Can we get anything for Heineke at this point?
Good luck.
You might get a Heineken for Heineke.
You know what? You didn't spend any draft picks on him. If you get anything, if someone came and offered you anything for him, it's technically a win.
Except that then they'd have one healthy quarterback.
Yeah. You bring up the guy from the practice squad. You're not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
so anyway,
I'm going nuclear option if you can't tell there.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's our trade deadline talk.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we talk about this game against Denver? Because this is a game that everyone on both sides says is going to be their get-right game. Denver sees us as a, dying wounded animal, easy for the picking. We see them the same way, I feel like. So this could be an interesting game in that respect, in that, these two teams are fairly evenly matched in certain ways.
That is to say they both pretty much suck.
Right. They both have large flaws in their game. I'll be diplomatic.
I'm not good at that.
Yeah, you're not. I'm not either, but I can try. All right. Well, let's start talking about what Washington's offense could expect from Denver's defense. How can they kind of attack them? I'll tell you from watching Denver play Cleveland over the weekend. I want to try and get the ground game going. That's my first instinct. And I'll go to you guys. What do you guys think?
Well,
go ahead, Jamal.
I was gonna be quick. I would say as a comment, you can go to the ground game all you want to, but what does Scott Turner want to do? Like Scott Turner is the guy who's unfortunately has never shown an instance where he would like to commit to the run game when when something would call for it. And I'm not entirely too certain. I'm not entirely too certain that he'll give Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic those opportunities, especially knowing that Antonio Gibson has been struggling lately. He may want to keep the ball in Heineke's hands as much as possible, but I do think that the ground game is something that can kind of get established against the Broncos. I just don't know if he'll want to commit to it.
I think the Broncos are kind of a weird team defensively, stat wise, because they've only given up 127 points. They're fourth in the NFL in points. Yeah, and in points surrendered. But their defense isn't that good. And you go, well, why is that? Well, part of it is that they've played the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Jets. Three really horrible teams, especially the Jets and the Jaguars. And then they played the Ravens, who, while are certainly a very good team, the Ravens aren't an offensive juggernaut at times either. And so they played a bunch of teams that aren't going to put up a ton of points. And I think that's sort of where we're seeing it. In terms of where their statistical weaknesses, they're not good on third down. That's one thing. They're 27th in the league in third down. They're kind of fair to middling in everything else. They don't sack a ton. They're giving up 4.1 yards per rush, which is pretty good, but not wonderful. That's 11th. Opposing quarterbacks averaging about 85, which is pretty good, but not elite. So it's I wasn't impressed with their film necessarily. I just think they've played a bunch of not great teams. And so if I was to attack the Denver Broncos, I think a balanced offense is probably best. And I don't think for me, I wouldn't lean too heavily on the run necessarily. I wouldn't go full on Jay Gruden pass all the time either. I think you need to have a solid balanced game plan and keep Denver off balance, because I think you can gain yards in a lot of ways against this team. And so to me, the trick is more execution, more so than leaning one or the other.
Well, I mean, the one thing I guess to keep in mind, if you do look at their game against Cleveland's playing with a backup quarterback, which is a big part of what happened with them. They weren't, when you have that kind of situation, you don't want to rely on your quarterback, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their numbers. It's interesting. It seems like some days they did great defensively. Like you said, those first 3 weeks, they're really solid. But yeah, after that, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Vegas, and Cleveland all had good days. And
I was just going to add. I was just going to add the situation too, because I did say that I think that Washington should, be the ones to, try and establish the ground game. But what also got Denver in trouble, in recent weeks was also their secondary. Like the defense, for whatever reason, they aren't giving up points and they're still solid. But I haven't watched every game thinking, like, throwing through to kind of figure out like what the actual bottom line issue is. But these guys in the secondary haven't been doing too good either. Like Kyle Fuller is on the verge of being traded. Ronald Darby got hurt. I think Kyle Fuller actually got benched. And he's on the verge of being traded. Ronald Darby is on short-term IR. These guys have been getting attacked as well through various means, and the secondary is struggling too. So it's like, while they're still good, they're still having these random issues, and I don't know what to decipher from it. Like whether it's like the top tier teams that's kind of picking them apart, or if it's just the fact that they're having a bad couple of weeks. I really don't know how to decipher it. Because the Raiders' offense is obviously good, but the Browns had their ways for a little bit as well before they settled in. So it's kind of hard for me to kind of decipher.
Yeah, I mean, and yet the Browns only put up 17 points. Yeah. At the same time, of course, it's the Case Keenum Browns, not the Baker Mayfield Browns.
Right.
None of, Jamal brought up a good point with their secondary. I mean, none of those names really impressed me. They do have Patrick Surtain, the second, who's a rookie, good prospect, but he's a rookie. So I really think that, look, Washington isn't going to beat anybody if they do things like fumble on the half-yard line, have the quarterback kneel on the 2-inch line, have a receiver drop a touchdown pass, when it bounces off his shoulder pads. You can't beat it. You're not going to beat the Jaguars if you do that, much less a better team. So to me, this game is more about execution. And in terms of their secondary, raise your hand if you think that Patrick Surtain and whatever's left of Ronald Darby can handle Terry McLaurin.
I don't see hands raised.
Yeah, right. I don't either. And so I think you got to, sprinkle a liberal dose of him with a balanced rushing attack that is, I was about to say effective, but they don't make mistakes. You just got to eliminate the mistakes, and I think they'll be fine.
Well, Steve, this will bring me to one of my next questions for you, because we know the injury report came out. Where's Antonio Gibson on that injury report right now?
Okay, here's the injury report.
That really also plays into the running attack question.
Yeah, it does. So injury report as of Wednesday, the DNPs, meaning did not practice: De'Ami Brown, Sam Cosmi, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Wes Schweitzer. Antonio Gibson was a limited participant, so that's good news. William Jackson was limited. Scherf limited, which, by the way, is the first time he's practiced in a couple weeks. Scherf. Seals Jones limited. Cam Sims limited. And then Johnson Sternberger on the list too. So he's practicing, and it's only Wednesday. So that's good news. Now from the Broncos side, Von Miller did not practice. He's got an ankle injury, DNP.
I like that. I don't, feel bad for him. But
get well soon, Vaughn, but not too soon.
Get well on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. We hope you're not really hurt, but all the same, I'd rather not see you out there. Purcell, the defensive lineman, I believe he's the nose tackle, DNP, and then their starting guard with foot injury, and then who else is nobody else really of note in here, but they do have a bunch of injuries. So I'm just not that impressed with their defense, but I'm not impressed with our offense either. So it's sort of bad on bad here. And the trick always in these games when you have two bad teams, mediocre teams, is execution. Who makes the fewest mistakes?
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we switch and talk about Denver's offense and what can this defense do to stop them? It's kind of a similar situation, right? Like I look at. I will say one thing about Denver. There was a point where I definitely wanted Teddy Bridgewater here in D.C., and I don't know what happened with him. I don't know why he hasn't looked right since he came back from that injury. But, man, it was when we got Alex Smith. I was kind of in that we should have gone and grabbed Bridgewater camp. But, man, I was wrong there.
I don't know if you're wrong. I mean, look at the number one, he's playing, and Alex Smith isn't playing. But Teddy's having a pretty good season, 70% completion percentage. He's only thrown 5 interceptions, quarterback rating of 99.5. I mean, he's doing pretty well in terms of statistics. He's kept Drew Lock on the bench, the rookie from last year. Here's what scares me about the Broncos. Number one, they have a two-headed monster at running back, with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, who are both having pretty good seasons. But if you look at their receivers, these guys are all humongous. Cortland Sutton, he's like 6'4". Noah Fant, the tight end, he's really a wide receiver, but he's listed as a tight end. He's 6'4". Tim Patrick is like 6'4" too. So all these guys are giants. Now, who do we have in our secondary? William Jackson, who's hurt. Is he going to play? Don't know.
Yeah.
Janny Johnson out there got owned by Lazard last week, on the Packers. And we got a rookie.
Although overall the secondary looked okay last week.
Looked much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You got Ben St. Juste, who's a big dude, but he's kind of struggled. He's a rookie. Yeah. So their receiver core scares me. Maybe more than the ground game does. And again, Teddy Bridgewater's a pretty good quarterback, I've always thought. And statistically, he's having a pretty good year.
I guess he's having an okay year statistically. I just think the struggles they had in Carolina when he was there,
Tell me I'm right, Jamal. Am I wrong? Am I right?
No, I agree. I don't think Teddy is a huge issue. I feel like the games that I've seen Teddy, man, he's been mobile. He's been making plays in terms of trying to extend things on his legs, but also I think he's cautious with the football. Like he's not a person who's going to take risks that'll kind of be a detriment to the team. Like he's going to try and get them in best position to, whether it's like better field position or just understanding that he's a game manager. I think that's that's the simplest way to put it. He's a game manager in a good way. It's not the negative connotation that people would kind of imagine. He's been a game manager and he has some playmaking ability with his legs as well. So he has that little thing going for him. And for me, I think I think it was Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had mentioned Noah Fant.
Yeah.
And like their tight end sets or something that I actually took notice when I was watching the game on the Giants, like as Washington was heading into their week 2 matchup. The Broncos ran a lot of 2 tight end sets against the New York Giants, and sometimes even 3 tight end sets, and it was all, whether it was just a specific game plan against the Giants, I don't know, because I haven't been able to watch like in-depth games any outside of that one for the Denver Broncos. But from what I understand in that game, they did that a lot to try and establish the run, but also understand it and know the guy who can run in the slot as well. So they have that versatility with Noah Fant, but also understanding that their backup tight end, what's his name? It's
Albert, to the guy whose name I can't pronounce.
Yeah, I'm looking. Oh yeah, him. Yeah, Alberto.
Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto.
Yeah, he's a guy. Like he only has 9 catches on the year, but they use him. They use him plenty. So I think they use him a lot in the run game too. So it's like they have that little versatility and a little matchup set where it's going to be hard, man, because they're good at run blocking. They created a lot of holes for Melvin Gordon in that game, but also Melvin Gordon is a good back in himself where even if he's not getting the holes already, like eventually that defense will wear down and he'll pop that big one.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a couple good backs there. That's for sure.
I'm just concerned about what all these Giants are going to be doing in Washington secondary. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, because they're off. Here's their offense: Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, Tim Patrick. That's their offense. And the rest of these guys can contribute here and there, and as Jamal said, with the 3 tight end sets and stuff. But in terms of the people who are going to get the ball and produce, it's those 5 guys.
Right.
And all of them are gigantic. Sutton, Fant, Patrick. We all know what Washington does with tight ends, which is to say nothing. Nothing good. And then you've got, is Danny Johnson going to match up against Tim Patrick? How's that going to go?
It probably wouldn't go great because Danny Johnson, I think, is 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, right. He's 5'8" or 5'9". That's my point. And so I just think this week's a bit of more of a challenge than some other weeks, just because of I just don't think it's a very good physical matchup for Washington in the secondary.
No, I mean, well, then that just really drives home that you need this defensive line to step up, of course. But and the good news is, well, Bridgewater can be mobile. He's not really a runner. He's
certainly not now that his knee, blew up and almost killed him.
Yeah. But even like when he was a young guy, he was more of a traditional pocket or rollout kind of passer. That was his strength.
Here's the statistical abnormality of this offense that I can't figure out. Their time of possession very high, more than 31 minutes, ranked 9th. They're bad in the red zone and bad on third downs. 29th in the red zone, 27th on third downs. So how are they keeping the ball this long?
Maybe
part of it is that they're
Joe Gibbs style snap the ball at 2 every time.
Well, there's that. Part of it is that they've played some really bad offenses. They played the Jets, they played the Jaguars. They blanked the Jets 26-0. Right. But this isn't like a consistent, like Kansas City at its best can run forever sort of offense. This is kind of a struggling, sputtering offense that has some pieces to it, but I don't think they're nearly at the level that we've seen out of some of these teams that Washington's faced this year.
No, especially lately, it feels like this is a much easier task compared to some of the teams they just played.
Yeah, right.
It was funny. You remember when we were, who was it they were going against? I think it was Buffalo where Ron Rivera's like, well, this is a measuring stick game. This is really a measuring stick game. Are you like worse than Denver, or are you at least at this level?
If you get toasted by Denver, it's truly over.
Right. Then it's, blow up everything, start over time.
Well, luckily for you, Steve and Alex and myself, luckily for us, I think we're all in the boat of it being over already. So what goes bad can't really hurt us moving forward.
Right. You have no feelings left.
I think we're in good shape here.
Yeah, they're not winning the division. Newsflash, Hey, Jamal, the line early in the week was Broncos -3.5. That was on Monday. What's it now? Do you know?
I could tell you in 2 seconds. It's 3, so it only
moves.
It opened at 3 and it's at 3 right now. So
yeah, so it's about the same. So Vegas, and remember Broncos are home team, so Vegas uses these teams about equal, and which is about what we're saying. They're equal in that on both offense and defense. They've had their moments. Both teams have, but poor execution and mistakes have killed both these teams.
Yeah, whoever makes the least mistakes this week is probably going to be your winner. Of course.
And again, I mean, objectively, the Broncos aren't terrible. I mean, again, they did beat up on 2 really awful teams, which Washington hasn't played yet. Washington's had a really tough schedule, and the Broncos haven't. So, what can you say? That's pretty even matchup. Just parts of it scare me. That's all.
It is an even matchup. Washington, our 2 wins did come against, I would say, easier teams. So, again, that makes us very even looking. All right, guys, why don't we move on to doing score predictions and wrapping this thing up? I'll go first since I missed last week's show. I am going to say that I feel like Washington can pull this one out. I really do. The defense played a little better last week, so maybe that's going to, be a thing for us that they start to gel. So I'm going to say Washington takes this one 20, let's say 28. I was going to say 24, but I always say 24. So 28-17.
Okay. By the way, the color guy and the broadcast crew is Mark Schlereth, for all you guys out there who remember the Hogs.
Yeah. Well, he played for both teams, too.
Yeah, he did. That's true. And that also probably tells you what Fox thinks of this game, because they just told Schlereth to drive to the stadium.
Right.
I'm going to go 2017 Washington. I think Washington can win this game. They got to win sometime. I predicted them to win this game early in the season. The Broncos aren't that good. Washington isn't that good. I don't think it's going to be a shootout or anything like that. But Washington's got to win a game sometime, right? And this is a pretty good candidate to win. So I'm going 2017 Washington.
I'm going to go 23-20 Denver. I do think that it's a winnable game, and but winnable game for Washington. But I think this is a team they're just struggling, man. I don't think they can really get together to play a full game on both sides of the football, or technically all 3, because they had a special teams block field goal last week. So I just don't think they can get on the same page all in one time and do that consistently moving forward. And I think the defense, who was struggling over the first 5 weeks, has kind of settled down just a little bit. On the offense is struggling to pick things up on their side. So it's kind of that bad, like that wild for Washington. So 23-20, Denver kind of scores towards the tail end to kind of get themselves that 3-point lead against Washington that'll seal their fate.
And then we all get to commiserate over a bye week about how horrible this team is. That's going to be fun.
2 weeks of noise.
2 weeks of them trading off all their assets. I think that's what it'll be. All right, guys. That should do it for this show. We're gonna have to discuss our bye week spectacular plans. I didn't think about that. That'll be fun. We can do the bye week spectacular. Okay, we will see you guys after the game. Remember, it's a 4:00 game, so Hogside late-ish. Hogside
Halloween night is what it's gonna be.
Yeah, spooky Hogside.
There you go, spooky Hogside.
All right, guys. See you then.
Yeah, I'm thinking